everyone's probably wondering, would you play Survivor again?
Of course, 100%. Only if they put me on the Heroes tribe,
Okay, that's what I was asking. I was gonna ask next because I saw your
though.
tweet of like, okay, did you guys decide if I'm a hero or villain? Why do you now settle on I am a hero?
No, I honestly don't. I haven't settled on it. I just think that sort of stuff is left up to, the fans and on whether I'm a hero or a villain. I made the moves that I had to make. And so, if they were villainous, then they were villainous. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. All right. Maybe it's like, oh, maybe there'll be like less schemers on the heroes. I see what you're doing. I think you're trying to sneak in.
Hey, if people are rooting for me, I feel like I might count as a hero. So,
That's true. That's true. All right. You said once you made it to tribal, Cody went up to, or sorry, jury. I misphrased. So once you made it to jury, Cody went up to you and he said, when you pulled out Janine's idol, your game made sense to him. What did that he mean by that? Was it like, oh, the betrayal's less personal, you are just that much of a strategic player, or something else?
I think that what he was trying to say was just like I mean, nobody knew I had that idol. Nobody knew I had that sort of backup plan, that safety net there, right? And so, like, for him, he thought when I used his idol and then voted him out, he's like, you just got rid of your ally and you got rid of a safety net. He's like, why would you do that? You just crashed our entire bus, right? Like, he's just thinking like he's not only is he betrayed, but he's just like makes no logical sense. And so I think that pulling out that idol, I think, oh, it started to click. He's like, oh, he had a safety net. And what he's told me since then is that just like he said, I'm just glad that we went as far as we did together and you didn't flip on me sooner. So,
If you and Cody were at the end at Final Six, who do you think would have voted for him over you, if that makes sense? Because I think Cody says, yeah, I think I could have beaten Jesse. You had the perspective, Cody was like more social. But I don't know. Since we're watching the show a lot from your perspective, it's like just Jesse's got this. So I'm just curious of which votes you're counting. You're like, yeah, I'm not going to that with Cody.
part of the fact that there is the edit, right? And you are all seeing my game. But I was very under the radar, I feel like. I don't feel like people saw, my game until it was too late for most of them, right? But I think that people saw Cody's game and people saw like he was like he was the more social, like outwardly extroverted person. And I do think that he had built these relationships with like Sammy. He had built these relationships with James. I didn't. It would have been a close one. Like it would have been. I was running the numbers in my head, and I'm like, my God, like we made the same moves, and if Cody gets to the end, the votes are already probably really close. And he's got this sort of charisma to him, and I'm like, I do not want to go to the end with that. My game plan was if I'm going to get to the end, if I'm going to somehow magically slip in a final three, I don't want there to be questions asked. Like I want it to be known, like I played the hardest.
Mhm,
And sitting there with Cody, there would have been a lot of questions. So
mhm.
I did not want that.
Yeah. Gabler admitted he wanted to go to the end with you and Cody. He was like down to the ride or die. It was funny watching Cassie and Owen look at each other and be like, he just messed up. Like he just kind of admitted he got here accidentally, if that was always his plan. But what's your perspective as a juror when he said that of like he might have had a plan to go at the end with ride or die, plan change, why he still should win.
I mean, I've never been in Final Tribal, unfortunately. But I think you're going to say whatever you can, right, to like make the jury feel special, make the jury feel good. I don't know for sure what Gabler would have done. I do know that when I went up to Gabler at the Cody vote and I said, "Look, Gabler, I know you love this ride or die alliance we got going on, but like." Cody's a huge threat, and if we end up sitting in the end with him, we might be toast. And I did not tell Gabler that I had Cody's idol. I did not tell him I had Cody's idol. I just said, look, Cody's this huge threat. If he gets to the end, it's going to be a tough one for us. And Gabler was just like, you know what? You're right. I'm not here to play for second. I'm not here to play for third. I'm not here to play for fourth, fifth. He's like, I want to win. And so he's like, even if Cody, and again, he didn't know I had Cody's idol. He's like, even if Cody plays his idol, I'm putting my vote on him tonight because I came here to win. I didn't come here to win to go come in second.
Mhm. Gabler was able to tell me how he was able to hide that he was working with you and Cody, but how were you able to hide that you were working so closely with Cody? Because of course, as the viewers, it's like they're inseparable. Why are you guys letting this happen?
Yeah, no, I think what's funny is like as soon as we knew we were gonna hit the merge like together, like as soon as we got that like letter, like the tree mail or whatever, we were like, we have to downplay us. Like we have to like do whatever we can to downplay ourselves. And so me and Cody, we as much as we were shown together on the TV, like right strategizing, those check-ins were like, I don't know, they were like very few and far between. It was like 10 minutes. Like, we would just like randomly like go up to each other back when nobody was looking and be like, all right, so what's the plan? Like, and we would cross-reference like each other's information. And so I don't think people saw it until, later in the game that like, oh my God, Cody and Jesse have voted together this whole time. Right. I think then it eventually started to click with people, but we were able to lay low for a long time.
Mhm. Were the jurors leaning one way or the other before going in to listen to the finalists, or um, do you think it was pretty open season?
I think it was pretty. I mean, I think it was pretty open. It's weird. It's weird to talk about it because, like, I'm, yeah, like I went out in fire, and I think a lot of the jury was on my side, and so I think that when I went out in fire, everybody's like, oh God, like what do we do? Like, and so they're starting to think through, like, oh my God, now we have to assess all three of their games, and so I think it was really open. Like, it was
Yeah.
really open.
Yeah. Obviously, Gabler got a lot of kudos for like wanting to do the fire and then beating you at fire. But what do you have to say to those who also have because Cassie was questioned. They were like, why didn't you give up the immunity and go to fire with you? That you obviously wanted that. Cassie argues you wanted that because you could have won. um, but what's the is there anything like a finalist who wins that final immunity can overcome if it's like that perception, because I think the whole thing is like outwit, outlast, outplay. It's like if we're considering immunity when it's like, okay, I outplayed, and outwit is I picked the person who ended up making history, making fire in record time. Why does that kind of like not count as a juror?
I mean, I think for this scenario, I think it's going to vary, honestly, from season to season, from game to game. I think in this specific scenario, like I was the person to take out. Like I was the person to beat.
Mhm.
And I felt like there was never a point in the game where I was blindsided. There was never a point in the game where I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mhm.
I had a lot of the information. So there was information I had that Cass didn't have. Like she thought that she had persuaded me and Cody to vote out Ryan, when in fact, like our idea, what we settled on actually was, if James goes, then Ryan goes. So any other scenario on that other tribal that was happening at the split five would have been Cass. So she only made it through just because James had gone and we decided to take out Ryan. She also didn't realize that she was on the chopping block with Sammy, right? Like on the Sammy vote, I was able to flip it from Cass to Sammy. So she didn't realize that all of these things were happening. And so when I pitched to her, like, look, I think you have to if you want like if you want to win this game, like you probably have to take me out on fire. And I think that was really the case for anybody. And it's weird to say because like I'm not like I'm not like the person to be like overly confident or like, oh my God, I'm this huge threat. But like I think in that scenario, I think like people wanted to see like someone, whoever took me out was gonna probably.
Yeah. So at the, I think, after show, someone said that the jurors made a checklist for each finalist of what they would have to say in order to win them over. Gabler just happened to check those boxes. I'm curious, what would be the boxes for Owen?
Ooh. Um, you know what? I think that Owen, I love Owen. I love Owen. He's amazing. I think that he really could have owned it a little bit more. I think he could have owned the fact that he came from behind and he would one thing that I thought about Owen's game that I don't know if he actually like said during Final Tribal was the fact that like man, like he was part of these big moves, but he was never the main player, right? Like he was like not in a disrespectful way. Like I asked Owen at one point, I was like, Owen, do you want to play Cody's idol on yourself? And he said no. That's an amazing decision right there. Like because then he would have been the like biggest threat, right? And so I think Owen probably undersold himself a little
Oh, interesting. Something that I think a lot of people riled up last night was the whole Carla versus Cassidy of it all, and Carla throwing out, "Hey, if you're not gonna get with me on this Jesse train, then I'm just gonna tell like the jurors not to vote for you." Did that ever actually happen? I think a lot of fans are curious.
I was only there for 24 hours, really. I got smoked in fire, clotheslined by Gabler, and then I had to process all of that while also thinking like, oh my God, I have to decide on a winner. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it happened. I don't feel like there was any sort of poisoning of the jury in my time there. But you know, I have no idea. But
I did learn from Cassie that she actually was gunning for Carla. News to me, it very much seems, or in the edit, that Carla was like tricked by Sammy, that Cassidy was going for when she wasn't. So, seeing how that whole seed was planted and how it ended at the end, and you were part of like, let's keep it going. Like, I need you guys to be looking at each other instead of me. Yeah, what do you have to say about how that really exploded, I think, in the end?
yeah, no, that was. I mean, me and Cass. I had conversations with everybody out there. I had individual conversations with everybody, and I think that was my strength out there was having these like individual one-on-ones a lot of times with people. And one thing that I always talked to Cass about was the fact that like we are in this sort of me and her were in pairs, right? Like she was in Carlos' pair and I was in Cody's pair, and they are the louder person. And so I was planting seeds from like really early on, like merge really, like Cass. We're in these pairs. Eventually, we got to come for our people. Like we got to come for our, you know, our Cody and our Carla. And so I was planting seeds very early on. I did not realize, you know, how how explosive it was going to be. So
The one-on-ones versus how Cody was social with everyone in like group settings. What advice do you have for other people? Because I'm an introvert and I love one-on-ones just for hanging out with friends. But that's also it in the compressed time that Survivor is now. That's then trying to get a one-on-one with everyone is a lot. So, how did you manage that social type of gameplay? And yeah, what advice would you give to someone who does want to win or play that way?
I mean, honestly, my God, like going into the game, if like people would have asked me like what my strengths and weaknesses were, I would have probably said like, oh, my strength is like I'm probably going to be really strategic. I'm probably going to not be great at challenges, and I'm probably going to be really bad at the social game because I'm so introverted. I think that and that's just because like my conceptualization. I think a lot of people's like conceptualization of what a social game is like being the social butterfly, being the life of the part, being like, and I don't think it's that. Like, I genuinely don't think that it is that. I think it's these one-on-one conversations that you're having with people, and I just made time. Like, I'm not gonna be the person when there's a group of 4 or 5 people. It's like that's when I start to shut down. I'm like, oh God, like I don't know. But I think that like I just made time to like meet to talk with people any chance I could get one on one and just talk about life, but then also talk about the game, right? So
Mhm.
you gotta make sure that you're always talking to everybody, honestly.
Got it.
Even if they're on the outs. Like I always talk to Owen, even when he was like sort of left out of the loop. I was always talking to him about just things in life, just one on one.